was a chairman of Shandam local government area of the state before the suspension. Honorable Alex Nantuan stated that the restraining order has not lost its binding force or power despite the continuous disrespect of it by the governor. The outgone chairman mentioned that the state government recently took desperate action when it approached and obtained an order of interim order from injunction from an area court sitting in Bukuru, setting aside a purported directive of the Commissioner of Police sealing off the Secretariat of the 17 local government and further directing the unsealing of the same. He further posited that democratically elected local government councils do not exist at the pleasure, whims and caprices of the governor, adding that the local government is not a mere parastatal of the state, and appealed to Governor Mutfwang to rescind his decision on the illegal appointment of the Transition Implementation Committee and allow a rule of law and democracy to flourish. He equally appealed to the Inspector General of Police to take immediate action to unseal the 17 local government council secretariat and allow constitutionally and democratically elected officials to resume their work. Heavily armed security operatives have been deployed in strategic places across Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, on the planned nationwide labor protests. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Good to have you back on the Global News tonight. Here is the rest of our story. Organized Labour have described their discussion with President Bola Tinubu on petrol subsidy removal palliatives as fruitful and productive. Nigeria Labour Congress says it will make its decision on the suspension or continuation of its protest against known on It will make its suspension or continuation of the protests known on Tuesday. Mr. Joe Ajarin, NLC president, who disclosed this after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu in Abuja, said organized labor is protesting against lack of palliatives to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal. He also said that Tinubu did not force them to suspend the industrial action, adding that Tinubu is a pro-democracy activist, so he understands protest, adding that the president made some commitment during the meeting which they would take to workers and leaders of the union. He said the issues at the meeting were the same as those that led to the protest ab initio, stressing that the issues of the palliatives as contained in the presidential broadcast were broad and some things needed to be done immediately to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. He further said that an immediate decision about the protest could not be taken by the labor leaders that came to the meeting for now. President Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has forwarded additional 19 names of ministerial nominees. The Chief of Staff and the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, presented the new batch of ministerial lists to the Senate. The rules of the chamber were suspended to allow for the Chief of Staff to enter the hallowed red chamber. The nominees are Ahmed Tijani Ekwazo, Bosun Tijani Isiaka Salako, Dr. Tunji Alausa, Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Adegboyega Oyetola, Atiku Bagudu, Bello Matwale, Ibrahim Gaidam, Simon Lalong, Lola Adejan. Others are Dr. Mariam Shetty, Prince Shuaibu Abubakar Audu, Dr. Mariam Professor, Dr. Taye Maman, Senator Sabi Abdullahi, Senator Alkali Ahmed Saidu, Senator Heineken Lokobori, Uba Maigari Ahmad, and Zephania Bitrus Gisalo. The nominees are to be screened by the Senate. And here is the report.
The screening process of the former Commissioner of Lagos State, Olawale Edun, took longer time compared with other nominees. This is not surprising due to the portfolio that could be given to the nominee. The financial sector is a critical component of economic development which will not be joked with by lawmakers. Olawale Edun, in his response to a series of questions thrown at him, said, if given the portfolio in the finance sector, he will replicate his experience gathered as a commissioner in Lagos State to improve the revenue generation at the federal level. Edun added that the proposed palliative on fuel subsidy removal will be sent to the most vulnerable Nigerians. Speaking on borrowing, Edun stated that borrowing will always be a good idea if government can finance its servicing and stay within its limit and the law in terms of borrowing.
Having so much money, that is a question of how do we spend it. But I assure you, there will be a continuous improvement in the fiscal situation at the federal and the state level, and that takes care of the debt situation. Owing is not a bad thing as long as you have the revenue to service. And it was and is the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to curtail spending, to curtail inefficiencies, and also to stay within the law in terms of borrowing to finance government operations.
Also screened was Governor El-Rufai, who explained how he will handle the Ministry of Power if his portfolio falls within the sector. He explained how he will tackle the constraint of power generation, transmission and distribution, saying expanding the nation's transmission infrastructure policy must be removed from its procurement.
A stress test on the distribution companies, only about 3 of them out of 11 are doing well. So there is a lot of work to be done regarding distribution, because distribution is the last end of the electricity supply chain. If it does not work, if they don't collect money, if they don't have enough metering, then they would not be able to pay for power supplied by the generation companies. And when they are unable to pay, the gap is what the government now pays. Otherwise, they will invoke the partial risk guarantee posted by the federal government of Nigeria. So this is a major problem and has to be addressed. But in the short term, the liquidity situation in the electricity supply industry has to be looked at. Tariffs must be cost reflective, and even the ownership of these distribution companies may have to change, because right now the banks own about 6 of them. They control 60% of the shares, and banks are not good at running companies. They are good at taking out whatever they need to recover their loan.
Part of the submission of Governor El-Rufai is that the National Assembly should give necessary support to the Electricity Act, which gives states opportunity to generate power and tap into the renewable energy. Rotimi Adewi, ATN News, Abuja.
As the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC begins nationwide protest in Abuja today, the leadership of the Nigerian Senate has promised to resolve the lingering crisis between the NLC and the federal government. This is coming after the NLC rally started from the Unity Fountain, Abuja, to the National Assembly complex, where the NLC and TUC presented their demands on issues concerning President Tinubu's economic policies, particularly the recent hike in petroleum pump price, which according to the NLC is responsible for inflation, poverty and increase in unemployment in Nigeria. ATN correspondent Rotimi Adewi reports.
The message of the Nigerian Labour Congress to the executive and the legislative arm of government is centered on the current and intensified hard times faced by many Nigerians. The NLC accused the federal government of a total neglect of its citizens without some measures to control the provocations and consequences of its policies, especially on the removal of fuel subsidy.
Ajero, as the NLC president, we are here to talk to our leaders, and we are no longer breathing. Our president 2 days ago told us that we should allow the poor to breathe. We are the poor, we are not breathing. All we are asking for is salary increments. A whole lot of 70 billion naira to the National Assembly. For what? When our salaries are very low, when we are suffering, you remove subsidy without palliative. You remove subsidy without salary increment. It is not acceptable. We are saying no to this. All we are saying, the government is telling us that they are going to bring in modalities to increase our salary. It is not enough. All we want is the salary increment now. We need it now. You cannot tell us tomorrow. You cannot tell us next tomorrow. Because when it comes to looting of money, it doesn't take 10 seconds. All we are saying is they should allow the poor to breathe. All we are saying is that they should do the needful to alleviate this poverty that is lavishing around us. We no longer send money to our loved ones because the salaries are very small. If that is the case, we should therefore go for salary harmonization. Every parastatals, every agency, every ministries should go to the same salary structure. But then, in absence of that, if that cannot be worked now, they should work on modalities. They should increase our salary. There is nothing again. And they should fix our refineries. Our refineries are not working. How can we be importing fuel? The same fuel we subsidize. The same fuel. We are suffering. We are suffering. We are suffering. Nigerians are suffering.
though the federal government on its part have made promises which many Nigerians are still waiting for its realities to manifest. But the NLC, through its efforts to negotiate, said it's not satisfied with the representation of the President's Chief of Staff. It added that the initial 520 naira price of PMS has not been resolved before the recent hike to 617 naira.
Immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of government, including the recent hike in PMS price, school fees, and VAT. Now, when we talk about recent hike, there was a hike of 520, 540, for which a committee was set up by the government, for which the government went to court and got injunction, for which the court announced that status quo should remain. And the court has not met between that time and now. Two adjournments the court did not meet. And one of the parties went ahead to increase again to 617. That very issue, because we have not gone on strike for 617, and we are going to consider that option after now. Because the issue of strike and court order was all around 520, and we have not even addressed it. One party went ahead to increase again. So it's like saying, do fighting, stop fighting, and another person went ahead to give another blow. That is where we are today.
The leadership of the Senate expressed willingness to be part of the negotiation, urged the NLC and the presidency to find a permanent solution to the current challenges in the country. Speaking further, Ndume decried the non-performance situation of the nation's local refineries.
To come out with a solution acceptable to you and realistic enough.
It is not a strike yet. So we just want to inform you that what you have said, we are ready to engage. We are ready to meet. Even if it's midnight, you call us, we are there. Even if it's weekend that you call us, we are there.
The dial has been cast, and the leadership of the Senate has promised to open conversation between the Labour Congress and the federal government with a view to resolving the current issues affecting Nigerians. From the National Assembly Abuja, Rotimi Adewuyi, ATN News.
Thank you, Rotimi Adewuyi. Now we'll bring you business news on the global news tonight. African Leadership Group has called on the federal government to adopt a phased approach to alleviate immediate hardships faced by the citizens. The statement says it was necessary in response to Nigeria's recent petroleum subsidy removal, while advocating for measures that addressed fundamental issues arising from the subsidy removal. It recalled that President Bola Tinubu's announcement on May 29 regarding the removal of subsidy on petrol resulted in soaring prices of goods and services, causing hardships for many Nigerians, and urged the government to implement mitigating measures swiftly to protect vulnerable households from the adverse effects of fuel price increases. The organization highlighted investments in health, education, and infrastructure to support the poor, as well as expanding safety net programs to shield vulnerable populations from the immediate impact of immediate effects of the subsidy removal, while simultaneously making long-term investments to achieve this goal. The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria has laid the foundation of the first aviation cargo village in Nigeria. The groundbreaking ceremony was performed by the Managing Director of FAN, Kabir, duping innocent people of their hard-earned resources. 4 categories: state and special SMEs, regional, national, and international. You're still watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Here is the international tidbits. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, is hosting a meeting of Chiefs of Defense Staff from 15 ECOWAS countries in Abuja to discuss the political situation in Niger Republic. Conspicuously absent are the defense chiefs from Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and Guinea-Bissau, a development indicating the country's opposition to ECOWAS stance on Niger Republic. The Committee of Defense Chiefs will discuss on the political crisis and work towards a resolution within the 7-day ultimatum issued by the ECOWAS leadership, while the outcome could either stabilize Niger or escalate tensions to war mode. Countries represented at the meeting include Nigeria, Benin, Ghana, Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, Cabo Verde, and Senegal. This is coming after ECOWAS had, during an extraordinary summit of the Authority of Heads of State and Government chaired by Nigeria's President Tinubu, issued a 7-day ultimatum to the military junta in Niger to revert back to the status quo or risk consequences, including a possible military action. Many Nigerians are urging caution over last week's resolution of the Economic Community of West African States, Authority of Heads of State and Government in handling the military coup in Niger Republic. This is coming after the ECOWAS General Abdulrahman Tichani, the mastermind of the coup in Niger Republic, 7 days to return power to the ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. The decision formed a part of resolutions reached during the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government emergency meeting held in Abuja. Other resolutions at the end of the meeting included a stern warning that if the coup plotters fail to restore political stability in 7 days, ECOWAS might use force. The regional body also directed member states' chiefs of defense staff to meet immediately. As announced by Omar Aliyu Torre, president of the ECOWAS Commission, the leaders ordered the closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger, including the imposition of a no-flight zone on all commercial flights to and from Niger. He also announced on behalf of the organization the suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS members states and Niger, including freezing all service transactions, energy transactions, and freezing the assets of the Republic of Niger in ECOWAS central banks. President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria and Benin Republic will collaborate to explore their cultures, history, and demographics for the benefit of the citizens. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Mr. Dele Alake, said Tinubu, as a special guest at the 63rd Independence Anniversary of Republic of Benin, was invited by President Patrice Talon to discuss the proximity of the two countries and similarly in economy and outlook on development, as well as make it compulsory to collectively pursue the same goal of growth. The president said the vision of political and economic stability of Nigeria and Benin could only be realized by working together, saying that the partnership would be strengthened and upscaled at various levels. In his remarks, Talon said the historic invitation of having another leader at the country's independence celebration was to show high respect for Tinubu following his track record of providing leadership in Nigeria and the West Coast. Tinubu has returned to Nigeria after the independence anniversary event, and he is expected to participate at the high-level meeting of the ruling All Progressive Congress holding between August 2nd and August 3rd. Former Ivory Coast President Henry Konan Bedi, who was part of an old guard of politicians who dominated politics in the West African nation for a generation, is dead. He died at the age of 89 years and served as president from 1993 until his ouster in 1999, and later ran a losing race against his longtime political rival, President Alassane Ouattara, in elections in 2020. However, it is not clear how Bedi died. Typhoon has lashed southern Japan, forcing evacuations and cutting off parts 1/3 of homes in a superstorm which also drenched the Philippines and Taiwan, killing more than 30 people in the last few weeks. It is expected to make landfall on China's northeast coast, but forecasts now say it is more likely to turn towards the Japanese mainland without hitting China. About 20,000 people have been advised to evacuate, and nearly 900 flights have been cancelled at Okinawa's Naha Airport, while such strong storms are rare at this time of the year in Japan. And that's the international news. Now bring you business news tonight. Wife of Nollywood actor Yul Edochie May has filed for divorce and has also requested the sum of 100 million as damages from Judy Austin for having an affair with her husband. Despite portraying themselves as husband and wife on social media, Yul and Judy were not lawfully wedded. This is coming after May and Yul lost their first son, Kambili Chukwu, some months back. While Yul went off social media for a while to mourn his son, he then resurfaced with news of his alleged new wife, Judy Austin. May claimed Judy and Yul can't be considered as a married couple as she is still legally married to Yul, adding that Judy will be subjected to 100 million lawsuits. Pop star Lizzo is being sued by 3 of her former dancers over claims including sexual harassment and a hostile work environment. The legal action includes accusations of sexual, religious, and racial harassment, discrimination, assault, forced imprisonment, and fat shaming. Ariana Davis, Crystal Williams, and Noel Rodriguez are the former dancers in bringing the case, while Lizzo and others who are accused have been approached for comment. The singer has not yet responded publicly to the allegations made in the case, which remain to be tested in court, alleging that the dance team's captain, Charlene Quigley, pushed her Christian beliefs on performers and derided those who engaged in premarital sex. She is also accused of openly discussing one of the former dancers' virginity and posting about it on social media. And here is the sports news for tonight. Team Nigeria has emerged overall winner at the maiden African Admiral Pobeni Canoe Race Championship, which ended in Abuja. The team amassed a total of 34 medals, comprising 21 gold, 11 silver, and 2 bronze, to emerge as overall winners of the event, which served as a pre-qualifiers for 2024 Paris Olympics. About 100 athletes from the 5 African countries, including Ghana, Senegal, Sao Tome and Principe, Togo and host Nigeria, took part in the 4-day event. Sao Tome and Principe, with a total of 20 medals, including 3 gold, 11 silver, and 6 bronze, finished second on the medal stand, while Senegal finished third with a total of 16 medals, made up of 1 gold, 3 silver, and 12 bronze. Nigeria Super Falcons will return to training on Thursday as they look forward to the round of 16 encounter against England at the ongoing 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. This is coming after Randy Waldrum's side booked their spots in the knockout round after a 0-0 draw against Republic of Ireland on Monday. The Falcons were granted a 2-day rest by the technical crew after the encounter against the Girls in Green and will resume training at the Lions FC Stadium on Thursday. Nigeria will be up against the 3 Lionesses of England at Land Park, Brisbane. It will be the 4th ever meeting between both countries, while Nigeria has won twice, while England has won once. The encounter will kick off at 8:30 a.m. Nigerian time. Chigozie Chileku says he is planning to be a player of Nigeria Professional Football League side Eyimba. Chileku said expectations is high when playing for the reigning NPFL champions, adding that the 9-time NPFL champions is the biggest club in West Africa. He also said Eyimba is precisely the biggest club in West Africa and one of the biggest in Africa. Paris Saint-Germain have urged Real Madrid to include either Rodrigo or Eduardo Camavinga in the deal for Kylian Mbappe for the forward. PSG are also financial compensation, while PSG manager Luis Enrique is keen on working with the aforementioned players and has asked the Parisian to go ahead with the deal. Enrique believes that he can challenge at the top with PSG even if Mbappe lifts the French League One champions. And that's the size of the global news for tonight. Before we go, here is another look at the major stories. Workers in Rivers State joined NLC protest